First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for putting a padlock on my son's bedroom door? My female 41, son 22, left for basic training last Friday. I cried for days and I miss him very much. He called once to let me know that he was safe, but I most likely will not get to talk to him for the next 12 weeks. I went to grocery store on Sunday, and when I came home, I heard my daughter, 16 female, screaming at my middle son, 20 male. When I went to see what was going on, I saw my middle son carrying a laundry basket full of my oldest son's clothes and his PS4. I also saw my husband, 42 male, all of my kids' bio father, putting the rest of his things in garbage bags. My daughter was screaming at both of them to put everything back, and that it was Trev's things and not garbage. I asked both my husband and middle son what on earth was going on. My son said that his father told him he could take what he wants. At that point, I was livid with both of them and said that this was still Trev's home, and that until he told me otherwise, those were still his things and they will be kept in his room until he asks for them. My husband said that it didn't matter. Trev was a man now, and his home would be wherever the military sent him. I told my husband that he was being cruel to Trev and that this would always be his home. My daughter was hysterical at this point, and I told them both that they were despicable for treating his room and things like a shopping mall. The next day, I went out and bought a padlock for his bedroom door, and I have one key in the glove box of my car, and the other will be taken to my office and locked in my filing cabinet. When my husband saw the padlock, he flipped and told me that I was being overdramatic, and that this was his house and he would just take a crowbar and pry it off. I told my husband and Jeff that if I saw either of them in that room again, or found that someone tampered with the lock, they would both be out of the house. My husband is now calling me a grieving war widow, and my middle son is saying that he is entitled to the bigger room now that Trev is gone. Meanwhile, all of this drama is making Trev leaving harder on my poor daughter, who is truly having a hard time with her big brother being gone. My husband is demanding I take the lock off the door and let him clean out the room. I refused to do this and told him that the only way the room is getting cleaned out would be if Trev no longer wants to live here. Am I the a-hole for putting a padlock on the door? Now for the top comments before the poster's little update. Not the a-hole. Will your other son have all of his things put into trash bin bags too? You know, since he's a man as well. If your middle son wants a bigger room, he is welcome to find one in his own apartment, with his new roommate, your husband. Best of luck to your son, and thank him for his service. Stay strong, mama. She should tell Jeff that since he is a man, it's time to throw his stuff out and then proceed to do it. I agree. I am even more shocked that two grown men did this in front of a crying teenage girl, and not once thought maybe we should stop. It's truly disturbing. Not at a-hole. I feel like a room switch could be negotiated with your sons in 12 weeks, but there's no reason at all for them to be stealing and throwing away Trev's things. They're still his things. Even if he ends up living elsewhere, one assumes he, wants his stuff. What if Trev doesn't make it through basic? Not only does he have to deal with all the emotional baggage of that, and then seeing what his family did to his room and his stuff. What the hell? I can sort of understand swapping rooms, but taking his stuff? I wouldn't do that to a roommate. Forget family. What the hell? Sorry I had to say it more times. My parents had some of my stuff 20 years after I lived there. It was boxed up in a crawl space, but it wasn't thrown out without my knowledge. Of course, Soapy is not a hole. Wow, it is super weird to me that your other son and your husband are acting like Trev is dead, not just to wait 12 weeks. Did they hate Trev or something? It sure seems like they do, considering they're literally stealing his stuff, his space, everything. Apparently without ever having discussed it with him beforehand. And their disrespect for your empty nest syndrome is also weird. It feels like they're being super passive-aggressive towards him, and you and your daughter by extension. And with that "this is his house" crack, I'm wondering if there's some kind of beef between your husband and Trev that your husband has waited till now to vent. Or maybe he's just feeling threatened by the fact that Trev is a man now. I have no suggestions on how to get past this, because I can't see how you get past such disrespectful, cruel behavior. I'm sorry your husband and son are a-holes, not the a-hole. Now for the update. I went to bed shortly after I wrote this post and wanted to thank everyone for commenting, even the negative ones. To answer a few questions. 1. I spoke to Jeff this morning and asked if he had talked to Trev prior to him leaving about taking his PS4 and clothes, and he admitted he did not. I told him that he was stealing his brother's belongings and he had until noon today to return all of them. He agreed reluctantly to return everything. I told Jeff that if I saw him near his brother's room again, he would have to find someplace else to live because I would not have my children stealing from each other, especially when the other child is not here. 2. I spoke to my husband this morning as well and asked why he did what he did. He has admitted that he is having a difficult time with Trev being gone, and anytime he walked past his room, he was reminded that he isn't here anymore. He broke down and said that he missed him, and he was sorry. He too agreed that what they were doing was wrong, and said that he would put everything back the way it was until Trev came home and decided what to do with his things, / what he planned to take when he got to his permanent duty station. My husband is former Navy, and he said that he is not there to protect his son, and he is scared. He has seen combat and does not want his son to have to see the things that he saw. 3. The entire family agreed that Trev's room would be left the way it was while he was in boot camp / training school, especially since he was only able to take his clothes on his back and his phone when he left for basic. The agreement was that when he was sent to his permanent duty station, he would make an inventory of the items he needed and we would store / donate what he did not want and ship the things that would not fit into his suitcase. 4. My daughter and her Bubba are very close. This transition has been very hard on her, which in turn has made things worse for me because not only am I concerned about my son, but I'm concerned about my poor daughter who is clearly struggling with him being gone. My husband and I discussed it, and we think it is wise to find her someone to talk to, or even a sibling support group for active duty military where she can go and talk about her feelings and fears. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for giving my husband a taste of his own medicine and buying him a generic gift for his birthday? Okay, so here's the deal. Every time any celebration comes up, whether it be my husband's birthday, Valentine's Day, Christmas, Easter, you get the gist, I always try to go above and beyond and get my husband a meaningful gift. It usually is something particular to do with his hobbies, items from a clothing brand he likes, useful gifts, games I know he wants. I always put loads of thought into the gifts and the packaging, etc. In return, for example, on my birthday, I got a card and a candle set. I have migraines, anything scented is no-go. And for Christmas, I didn't even get a card. Just a second-hand mini Hoover that I had to buy the plug and filter for myself, mind you. I do not expect the world from him, and I've told him if he struggles with gift ideas to just ask me or get me a card and some flowers, but he never listens. This has been going on for years, and every time his birthday or any other holiday comes up, I ensure to give him really personalized gifts. Yet, I always receive very random things that I just have no use for. We've had so many conversations about this, but he hasn't changed at all. So this year, I was upset because I subconsciously had so many awesome gift ideas planned out for him, but I thought back to the last time he gifted me that second-hand, half-put-together mini Hoover, and thought, hey, if he doesn't want to put in any effort, why should I? So I got him some new underwear and socks, which he actually needed, lol, and a card and flowers. When I gave him the gifts, he looked disappointed. He asked if he'll get his second half after dinner, and I said no. These are your gifts. He got very sulky and snappy with me afterwards, and I think it definitely soured the evening with that. He didn't call me an a-hole straight up, but did say I wasn't nice for not putting in much effort like I usually do. I told him this is about as much effort as he puts in for me, every single holiday. He got mad and left to go to the bedroom, where he still is now. So, am I the a-hole for showing the same amount of effort and giving my husband such generic gifts? Not the a-hole. I told him this is about as much effort as he puts in for me, every single holiday. He got mad and left to go to the bedroom. He's mad because you're right, and he left because he has no way of justifying his lack of consideration / effort. You've talked to him about this before, told him to ask you for gift ideas or just give you flowers, and he simply hasn't bothered. But with the complete lack of care he shows you, he feels entirely entitled to you going above and beyond for him. He's an a-hole, and he needs to change. 100%. He can rot until he changes. Not the a-hole, and all of these stories that get posted of extremely thoughtless, lazy, and / or disappointing husbands are way too common. It's because our society makes it okay for men to be inept as husbands and fathers. I don't watch much TV anymore, but it's treated as humorous for men to suck at domestic labor. I'm just aghast at how many posts here have men hide in their man caves, playing video games or watching porn while all the dishes / childcare / pet care / cooking / cleaning gets shoved off onto the women in their lives. The next story is titled, "Am I the a-hole if I tell my wife I don't want to have kids because I don't think she can look after them well?" I've 32 male been married to my wife, 29 female for about 7 years. We have discussed having kids before, but we always had to wait a couple of years until our careers were more stable. We've been enjoying our child-free lives, but about a year back, we decided things were going pretty well for us and thought it's about time we had our baby. Working from home also frees up a lot of time for extracurricular activities. We haven't had any luck so far, but we're having the when it happens mentality, so we're not rushing anything. Sometime around October last year, wife suggested that we should get a puppy. We're both animal lovers, and we thought it was a great time since both of us would be at home and we could watch over and house train it. We got the puppy, and we both love him dearly. But ever since we got him, I've had to bathe, feed, and clean up after him. Don't get me wrong, she helps out as well, but I would say it's a 90-10% ratio. It gets extremely tiring after a while, and sometimes I just want to kick my feet up, have a nice beer, and watch TV without being interrupted with, "Hey, the puppy just peed. Can you come clean it up?" It carried on for a couple of months, and a couple of nights ago after a long Zoom session for work, I exploded and told her that she needs to do her share of looking after the puppy, and I'm tired of being the one who does all the work. She told me I was being calculative and trying to undermine her. I told her that it's clear that I've been doing all the dirty work, and all she wants to do is play with the puppy. This is where I might have gone too far. I told her if I can't trust her to look after our puppy, how can I trust her to look after a baby? If we had a baby, I won't be able to take cleaning up after him all the time, and she had to do her share as well. If she was going to act the same way, I would rather not have a kid. She screamed at me, burst out into tears, and left the house. She has been staying at her parents for a few days now, but things don't really seem to be improving. Her parents are telling me it was a horrible thing to say, as looking after a puppy is not the same as a baby, and that she would make a great mom, and that I should come over and apologize to make things right. Personally, I feel like it was harsh, yet I had to make a stand. I wouldn't know what to do if a baby comes along and she continues acting the same way. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for the way I acted? Now for the top comments. Coming from someone who does have kids, not the a-hole. Her response is typical of someone who lacks insight and objectivity. Yes, a dog and a child are not the same, but people who act this way often carry it into parenthood. If you ask me, you dodged a bullet here. Do not reproduce with this person if you want equality in a relationship. I'm afraid because we were able to come to a decision well with most other stuff like family, finances, and chores. But with the puppy, it just seems like she doesn't want to do the dirty work, and I'm not really sure why. Speaking to her doesn't really help either because she brushes it off. She screamed and burst into tears because you were 100% right. Maybe you were the a-hole, but that doesn't mean you were wrong. I think your last sentence sums up a lot of posts on the sub. Brutal honesty is usually seen as an a-hole move because it's very rarely warranted. However, in the cases we see here, things have usually escalated to a point where the harsh truth is needed. Not an a-hole. Yeah, it was a harsh thing to say, and in the future you need to talk about this sort of stuff rather than holding it in until you explode. But your logic isn't exactly off the mark. A puppy's a hell of a lot easier to care for than a human. So if she's doing close to nothing and relying completely on you, and you may not have the time to do the same for a child, then I just reiterate what I started with, that you should communicate these things earlier to avoid a blow-up situation. We have spoken about it before, but she often brushes it off. She feels that by playing with the puppy during the day, she has done her part, and somehow my explanation doesn't get through her. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not siding with my husband after what he told my parents? Me, female 25, and my husband Leo, male 27, have been married for 2 years. He and his family always struggled financially. He lost his mom at a young age, is now in no contact with his father because of his stepmother's treatment. He didn't have much when I met him. He's a very emotional and prideful person, sometimes tends to be irrational. He injured his leg 6 months ago in a truck accident. He's using crutches, unable to walk without them, and can't work. He doesn't have a degree, but used to work in construction. Has an ongoing pain. And medication isn't helping, and I'm worried about it. I have a job that's barely enough. My parents are supportive. They'd send groceries, blankets, come over and help out with some stuff. Leo's always shown them appreciation, and they consider him their son. A few days ago, he's been talking about whether my parents can help him pay for his surgery so he could work again. I told him my parents don't have $17,000 to help with the surgery, and our talk ended. Yesterday, we were visiting my parents. We were sitting talking when Leo started complaining about his leg and being unable to work, and went on about the cost of surgery to my parents, and they nodded, feeling sorry for us. Leo asked them if they could help by giving us $17,000 for the surgery. My dad politely told him they don't have that kind of money. Then Leo, out of nowhere, mentioned my sister's college fund and asked if they could use some of it to help out. I was shocked. My dad started berating him for bringing it up and told him that this is their daughter's future that they don't take lightly. Said he didn't appreciate Leo's inconsiderate behavior to be asking this, but Leo kept talking about paying them back. But how can he pay back $17,000? He looked at me almost tearing up. Then my dad asked us to leave because he thought I agreed with Leo, but I was dumbfounded. I had no idea I'd do this. We got home. Leo was upset I let my parents berate him. Said he was stunned by my reaction and said that he's my husband and I'm the one who knows how much he's suffering and should understand his situation. We had an argument. I lashed out at him. I told him he had no right to even mention my sister's future and put me and my parents in this awful situation. I told him to stop it after he said he'd pay them back, but we both know he won't be able to. After arguing, I left the room to calm down. I was surprised to see him crying in the room. I felt terrible, mostly helpless because I understand he's looking for help. But my parents are upset with me now and I can't even call them. My sister is 16. I wish I could say no a-holes here because the desperation of your husband hits me hard. I feel a little bummed that there's going to be a flood of comments berating him for the horrible behavior, but I kinda get it. Constant pain makes you go crazy. Pride is even harder to swallow when you feel useless all the time. The anxiety of astronomical medical bills in the United States is a nightmare. Of course, even so, his behavior was unacceptable and crossed into a-hole territory. Therefore, not an a-hole. Best of luck, Opie. Please reach out to your parents. Please communicate with your husband. I'm really hoping you guys get on the same page. I think the core verdict here is FPHITA. For-profit healthcare is the a-hole. Not an a-hole. It sure takes a certain amount of something to ask your in-laws to give you your sister-in-law's college fund after your wife told you they could not afford to do so. I understand he is in pain, but that does not excuse his behavior, and the fact he's made it so your parents are also upset with you is pretty horrible. I don't know, as someone who suffers from chronic pains as a result of a childhood accident, so slightly different situation from Obi's husband, there are times when I'm just so done with everything that I beg anyone for help. I can't help but empathize with Opie's husband because I remember how absolutely painful it was knowing treatment existed, but it was too expensive for me to afford. My injury became not just physical, but also mental. I feel like the biggest a-hole here is life and whatever insurance system, I'm guessing US but not sure, exists that makes necessary treatments $17,000. Added to clarify that I agree with not an a-hole. I'm just having a hard time calling the husband an a-hole. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe.